The 1 year anniversary, can you believe it's been a year?
It feels in some ways like it happened yesterday. It's this weird sort of time warp that happens with grief. You kind of get sucked into this hole of some days seem to pass slowly and some days go by quickly. It's hard to believe it's been a year. And then in some ways, I don't know, it's fresh. The wound is fresh still, even after a year.
When you think about the year that's gone by, I mean, is it almost like you get like a flash frame of memories and things like that? What's been going on the last year with memories of your fiance?
There's a wave of emotions. Sometimes, I laugh and I think about silly things. There's constant reminders. We were together for 15 years, so in that time, I mean, every piece of music that's been released in 15 years, all the movies that have come out that we saw together. So there's reminders of joy and happy times, and then there's that quiet of him not being here. That's the nagging reminder that he's gone. It's a very surreal thing to describe. There's moments of joy, there's moments of gratitude that I was able to experience that kind of love in my life. There's anger that he's gone, fear for what does the rest of my life look like without him? What does my daughter's life look like without him being there as a father? It's a range of emotions, and most of the time, day to day, a year out, I'm okay. I have a normal work routine. We have a normal home routine. And then sometimes just out of nowhere, something will trigger a nerve, trigger an emotion, and I have to kind of give myself a few minutes to deal with it, and then we have to kind of tuck that away and move on, because I still have to be a mom and I still have responsibilities. I still have a team of associates who rely on me at work, so I have to show up. I have to show up for life. I would love to have been able to just hide under a rock for the last year and give myself time to grieve and cope, but the world doesn't stop turning for little old me, so I've had to kind of compartmentalize things and put some emotions on the back burner and just kind of focus on my priority, which is keeping my daughter happy and healthy and preserving his memory for her, making sure that she remembers him, because she was 2 years old when the incident happened. So my biggest fear is that she won't remember him, and I need her to remember him.
Speaking of that, talk about what kind of a father he was. I look at the pictures. She's holding up some bean bags for play cornhole. I see him holding her with a big smile on both their faces. And for the people that didn't know, I mean, obviously a lot of people don't know what kind of a father he was, and it was, such an important part.
He was a wonderful father. He could not wait to be a father. That was his greatest joy. We were together for 15 years, and we both decided to, pursue our education and careers, and then we started our family later in life. I was 35. But he couldn't wait to be a dad. He was thrilled. While I was pregnant, for his first Father's Day before she was born, I bought him a shirt that said, it's not called a dad bod, it's called a father figure. And the day that I had to be induced, and I called him and told him, what was going on, he showed up wearing that shirt. He was so excited. He was ready to go. He just couldn't wait. And I'm like, it's not going to happen right away. It's going to be a process. You're a little premature with the shirt. But he was just he couldn't wait. He was so excited. And from the moment she was born, he was, the first one to hold her. He was the first one to change her diaper. He was all in. He was ready. And he he would have moved mountains for her. You know, he was her hero. You know, she had a special relationship with him. You know, I mean, she loves me. She loves her mom, of course. But the look on her face when he would enter the room, it's indescribable. Just, she beamed for him, worshipped the ground that he walked on, even at that young age, even at 2 years old. The connection, the bond that they had. And I think that's what's been really hard to see other dads and their little girls, you know, out in public, and they're playing and they're dancing, and to know that she's now missing out on that, and he's missing out on that. That's hard. That's the hardest part. The hardest part is knowing what she's lost and not even necessarily having the comprehension of what she's lost, because she's so little. She's so little.
Yeah, at 2, turning 3, October 13th, I mean, how do you keep, I mean, that young, it's tough to remember, but how do you keep the memories so she never forgets her dad?
So I have videos on my phone that she asks to see, you know, little short clips of things that we've filmed. Her favorite ones to watch are actually from her birthday last year. We didn't have a party, we decided we'd do something as a family, and we went to the Children's Museum down at Thompson's Point. We went down there and spent a few hours, and so the videos I have of her and Daddy playing with the balls in the water, and you know, the lights and all the different things there. Drumming the big drum they have outside, you know, Daddy and Ellie drumming. Like, yeah, let's watch the video. And so I think that helps keep some memories for her. We have pictures in the house. She knows his face, she recognizes his face. Some of the other videos that she likes to watch are of Christmas and opening presents with Daddy, blowing out birthday candles, different things like that. The videos help, the photos help, telling stories every night. Oh goodness, every night when I tuck her in to go to bed, because we had a very different routine. I would do the bath time, get her in her jammies, and then Daddy would come up and, you know, rock with her, read her a story, and get her to fall asleep and put her to bed. Now, our routine is I still do the bath, put the pajamas on, and then tuck her in, and every night I, you know, kiss her head and tell her Mommy loves you, and I always tell her Daddy loves you too, because I want her to remember that he does, and know that he does, even though he's not here. He didn't leave her on purpose, you know, like, this wasn't his choice, and that he loved her so much.
After seeing what's happened here, do you have almost like a message to other moms and dads out there to cherish every minute?
Oh, of course, to anybody, whether you have children or not. Hug your loved ones. Tell the people you love. Tell your friends that you love them, and until they're like, oh my goodness, gosh, stop telling me that. Like, I don't think there's ever been a soul on this earth on their deathbed that's looked back and said, gosh, I wish I hadn't said I love you that many times. No, you always wish you'd said it more. And I mean, we told each other we loved each other every day. You know, every time we'd leave the house to go somewhere, I love you, be safe. We always said it, and it still doesn't feel like enough. You know, the last text messages that I got from him were I love you. And, you know, the last words I remember him saying to me, I dropped him off to pick up his car from the shop, and then he was headed to cornhole that night, and his last words were, you know, I love you, good job, Mama. And I miss hearing that, you know, I miss hearing that reassurance that I'm doing a good job. I miss him. He was our world.
What have you learned after his passing about through his friends and other family members and maybe his coworkers of, you know what kind of a person he is, but you're really like, wow, really was that great, right? What have you learned, maybe?
Goodness, he was fearless. I mean, he'd do just about anything for a laugh. He was so funny, and you know, when I met him, that was the attraction. When we met, he made me laugh so hard, and just some of the stories of things that his friends have shared, some of the wild antics that he's pulled. I don't know. He didn't care how it made him look. He didn't mind being the butt of the joke. You know, he didn't care. He wanted everybody to have a good time and laugh and have fun. I mean, it's not that he wasn't a serious person. He knew how to be serious, but he got so much joy out of making other people laugh and bringing joy to other people. And it's so quiet without him. I mean, just his laughter was infectious. He just had this giggle that, I mean, I can't even imitate it. He was just so funny. And I'm sure there's stories that I don't even know that are probably not privileged.
Or maybe you don't want to know.
Yeah, probably there's things I don't want to know. But he was such a character. He was larger than life, truly larger than life. I mean, he'd dress up in things, Macho Man jackets and Superman pajamas, and he had a red Union suit that he got for Christmas because he wanted to be that character. He wanted to make people laugh, anything for a laugh.
What do you think is one thing that you, if you were describing him to like somebody who didn't know him, how would you describe him?
Charismatic. I mean, he was so easy to talk to. He could make friends with anybody, just throw him in a room full of strangers and he'd know everybody's name and he'd be able to tell you something about them, and he'd walk away with a whole bunch of new friends and connections. And he was so good at maintaining those friendships too. He still had friends from childhood that he maintained contact with, and previous jobs. And when he passed and we had to start making arrangements, I mean, we were like, where are we going to house this many people? There's going to be a lot of people who are going to want to show up for him. And a lot of people did. And it was a true testament to the life that he lived and what he meant to so many people. I mean, there were over 300 people in that room. But he was infectious. You just couldn't help but love him. He was just so sweet and caring, kind, would give you the shirt off of his back, put his friends and his family first. He wanted to make sure everybody had what they needed and that they were successful. And he'd tell you if you were being dumb. I mean, he wouldn't hold back, but he'd help you, but he'd tell you what an idiot you were for getting yourself into the situation. But he was just so kind and funny and just charismatic. I mean, just a wonderful, wonderful person, just warm.
15 years together, how do you cope with the loss, or can you?
I don't know that I'm even necessarily doing what I should be to cope. I don't know if there's a right way. I try to put on a brave face for the world and for my daughter. I can't have her seeing me fall apart. So I try to, put time aside when I'm alone to process slowly. But it's very lonely. It's a very lonely process, and not because people don't reach out or want to offer help. They do. I mean, the support and the outreach of the community and family and coworkers and friends has been phenomenal. But I historically am a private person, so I don't necessarily need to put that burden of carrying my grief onto others. But it's been very, very quiet and very, very different. A year out from everything, it's sort of just been an adjustment to this new normal. And at first it seemed very surreal. There were months that I just kind of felt like I was waiting. It just kind of felt like he had gone, but that he would eventually be coming back. I guess that's the best way to explain it. And now it's kind of the realization that he's not coming back, and just looking for ways to, instead of focusing on the grief, instead focusing on the love and letting that be what carries me through. That and the hope. I was previously a very spiritual person. I came from a Christian upbringing, and I always relied on that in the past to carry me through hard times. But there's nothing like this. This just shakes your whole world. And so everything that I thought that I believed, I don't know that I believe, but I do have hope in that uncertainty of that we don't know what comes next after this world. And so the hope is that maybe there is something, and maybe we'll be reunited again. Our relationship in the span of 15 years, we definitely had our hurdles that we had to overcome. And we were in a really great place, as a couple. And my hope is that if everything that we went through on this earth, made our love that strong, that maybe in whatever life comes after this, we'll find each other again.
When the 1-year anniversary comes around, October 25th, we'll remember that day forever. How do you guys plan to memorialize him or the other victims, or do you guys plan to attend any events?
I will not be attending any events. I am grateful that there are events for the people who choose and wish to attend, and that can be healing for some people, to come together as a community and remember. And it's beautiful, and I'm honored. I'm sure he would be honored that he'll be a part of that memorial. But I will not be attending. I think for me, a better thing to do is to be with my daughter and to just sort of be out in nature somewhere and just take the day to reflect and spend time, maybe sharing memories with her and doing something away from the noise. Because I feel like if there is, any type of spiritual world and he's trying to communicate, or, if there's a sign, how am I going to hear it if I'm surrounded by thousands of strangers in a coliseum? I don't think that that's helpful for me, but I think it's a beautiful thing that they're doing for the people who have been lost and for the people who find that healing and want to go. But I think for me, I just kind of want to be alone with my daughter and celebrating his memory with her in some way. Maybe we'll go back to the Children's Museum. I don't know. Not sure. I don't really have a plan for that day. I think we'll just kind of roll with the emotions of the day and see how it goes. Maybe we'll go visit family. I don't know.
It's so difficult, but I think it's great that you can talk about him in had such great memories and everything. So is there anything else? I don't
know, we had a really interesting way that we met.
Oh yeah,
if you want to hear about that, maybe.
Let me ask you, how did you guys meet? Nancy told me, but how did you guys meet and then ultimately get engaged and have this life together?
So that's a fun story. That's kind of like the rom-com portion of my life, We met at a Portland Sea Dogs game. It was June 6, 2008. I was there with my friends who happened to also be friends of his. And we had 4 tickets. Our 4th person decided not to go because it was supposed to rain that night and they didn't want to get wet. Well, it didn't end up raining. Peyton was supposed to be there with his sister, Nancy, and her husband, Chuck. And through text found out that we were also there, didn't know me, but we met him at the gate and gave him our extra ticket because we had really good seats. And we're like, come spend some of the game down here sitting with us. And so actually I ended up paying for his parking too. That was the other thing. He was texting, he's like, where'd you guys park? And we told him, and he didn't have any cash to pay for the parking. So I think it was like $5 or $10. So I paid for his parking. But he, I think, went in and went and said hi to his sister and then came down and sat with us, sat next to me. And throughout the entire game, we were just talking and laughing and finishing each other's sentences, which sounds like so corny, but we were quoting the same movies and TV shows, and it was like this electric energy. He was just so easy to talk to. He was so funny and charming. And I kept asking, are you going to go up and sit with your sister? It's her birthday. You should probably go up there and sit with her. And he's like, yeah, next inning. And then next thing we know, it's like last call. He has not once gone up and sat with his sister. He sat down beside me the entire game. And then, the game was over. They came down, of course, because I knew Nancy, because I worked with her husband, and I knew her, through my work as well. And so they came down and said hi. The game was over. We all left, and then didn't see him after that. But my friends that I had gone to the game with kept telling me, he wants your phone number. He keeps calling, asking for your number. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I was not looking for anybody at the time. I was getting ready to start classes in the fall. I was focused, not looking for love by any means. And a couple weeks later, it was the Windjammer fireworks in Booth Bay. And I had gone down to watch the fireworks with that same group of friends. And Peyton came down, and we watched the fireworks, and then ended up talking for hours. Time is just, it's such an odd thing. It passes when you don't want it to, and then when you want it to, it doesn't. But we talked for hours that night, and then finally exchanged phone numbers, and then the rest is history. We were together for 15 years. Fall of 2020, we decided we were ready to start trying to have a family. That February, Valentine's Day weekend, we went to the ice castles in New Hampshire for just a little romantic Valentine weekend. Little did I know that he had been plotting since that fall with my mom and his sister to propose, and had picked out a ring at this estate jewelry store that we both loved. And so February 13th, 2021, at the ice castles, he got down on one knee and proposed. We got it all on photo because he did it right as we were getting ready to leave, where they have the souvenir photo shoot guy. So I have all these pictures of him getting down on one knee, and my face of shock, because at that point, when you're with somebody that long, you're kind of just like, well, you're my person, like whether we get married or not. Like we were going to start a family, like we had plans, we were going to buy a house. It didn't matter if it was on paper. Like in our hearts, we were already committed to each other. So when he proposed, I don't even think I said yes. I was so surprised. But yeah, so February, and then that following October, our daughter Elle was born. So we didn't even know at the time when he proposed that we were already successful in starting our family. And it's just, yeah, that was a wild year. That was a good year.
Well, that was a great story. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Hey, great job. I know that wasn't...
Thanks. No, this is not my...
Well, you did a great job, and I know it wasn't
Thanks.
easy. Take a big, deep breath down. That was awesome. It's just a great way to let people know what kind of person he was and the memories that will,
He was
last
just,
and
I just
last.
wanted people to know how loved he was and how important he was and how much he loved his family.
I want you to say your name and how you're related to Peyton, okay?
Nancy Lowell Cunningham, and I'm his sister.
It's been 1 year. When you look back on it, you were on the phone with him that day. Take us through that day.
So I had been helping Peyton with his budget. So we'd been working really hard for him to purchase a home. So we were moving money around, and his car was in the shop, and he called me, hey sis, I need to, can you move money over so I can pay for my car? He had just bought the car in July, and somebody hit him. Brand new car, and so he had just picked it up and been in the shop for about a month, and he hadn't been able actually to go to that cornhole for almost a month. And so he had called earlier, and we'd done that. And so since my mom passed, every day on my ride home from work, he would call me or I'd call him. And so I actually talked to him right until he was pulling into his parking spot at Schmenke's. And we ended the conversation like we always did. I said, I love you, kid. And he goes, I love you, sis. And he usually would send me a text message later in the night saying, I played well, I didn't play well, or, he was always good about that. So a year later, it's very raw. I think I wake up every day thinking it's a dream, that I'm going to wake up and it didn't happen. But that's not true. Sorry.
No, that's all right. And you talk about he was your brother, but you felt like he was a lot more than a brother, huh?
Absolutely. He would tell people I raised him. He'd tell people I was his mom. Our mom was around, but we were very close. When I went off to college, I went to college in Boston for a year. I moved to Boston, and when I came home, he had moved into my bedroom. I came home, there were He-Man sheets on my bed. But we were very close. And then when I transferred to college in Maine, he would come and spend weekends at the university with me. And we've always done vacations together, traveled together. Rachel used to call me the other woman because if he would always talk to me, anything he had going on in his life, he and I were very close, very close. So he, a few years, trying to think of when that was, he had an accident, a head-on collision in his truck, and he lived with me for how many months afterwards recovering. So.
I think that was 2010, 2011.
Yeah, 2010 or 2011. He lived with us for a while with Chuck and I, and he spent, I want to say, 3 months on my couch. So yeah, I was very close to him. We have, like I said, he has 4 brothers, but he's never lived with any of them. He loved them, have great relationships with them, but I watched him grow up since I was 13 when he was born, so, and watched him grow up, and he lived with me until I was 30 when I got married, and then, but we've always been close.
It must be kind of difficult because you see websites or you see stories with just pictures. Here's one of the 18, right?
Yep.
But to be able to talk about him, what kind of a person he was, you really found out what kind of a person he was, really, but through some of his friends, huh?
Absolutely. I knew his core group of friends. I've known them since they were kids, and so I knew them, but meeting his coworkers and just people that he met through the cornhole community, they just recently did a Bags for Peyton. It's a cornhole tournament in Gorham, and they did it last year, and they did it again this year. It's going to be an annual event. And I was speaking with the gentleman that put it on, and he said that he had met Peyton, and Peyton encouraged him with cornhole and just touched his life. And I would have never known that if I hadn't. I wouldn't have known these people. There's just been several different people that said he was brought up well and what an amazing guy he was. And talking to some of the employees at BIW and the pipe shop, they miss him terribly where he worked. So he was definitely a character, and to see the number of people that showed up for him, all walks of life, it was, like Rachel said, he could make a friend anywhere, and he was good at it.
He had the cornhole community, the person in Gorham, BIW. He's got a connection to Westbrook, too. Talk about that.
He graduated from Westbrook. In fact, a majority of the core group of friends that they've been together, they've been friends for 27 years. They have a group text that they used to text each other almost daily. They all graduated from Westbrook, and one of his friends there, his son is at the Gorham or Wyndham team. I can't remember, but he's part of the wrestling community in Westbrook and Wyndham, and they have last year they had on their jerseys in remembrance of Peyton Brewer-Ross. When we were looking to do his celebration of life, we were trying to figure out who can we have do this service for us, and next thing you know, we got an email from Chaplain Cheryl, who she's the Westbrook Fire chaplain, and she was in the Westbrook school when Peyton was in school. Her kids went there, but she was in the office, worked in the office, so she knew him, and she reached out to us, and she was amazing. But that just came out of the blue. We would have never thought to go that route, but we got an email from her, and saying, I would like to help you out with his service. And that was phenomenal. I mean, we've had lots of different people touch our lives that we didn't know that he knew.
Yeah, a lot of quality people, the
Yes.
quality, but I think the quantity kind of blows your mind, huh?
It did. It blew our mind. I mean, I didn't expect the turnout that we had. We were thinking it was, at first when we were planning it, we knew that there'd be a few people. At first we were just going to do everything at the American Legion, and some community members got involved and said, hey, we think you should do this, and offered their services. And we actually used a local restaurant, Brady's Restaurant, and they were phenomenal for the reception afterwards. And the golf course provided us shuttle vans to and from, because parking is an issue in Booth Bay Harbor, as everybody knows. But it was like a big party. It was so nice.
That's the way he'd want it, huh?
He would have loved it. He would have been in his glory. He would have been smiling, and he would have been so happy. He would have been going around talking to everybody. He would have loved it.
I'm looking up ways that people described him. Energetic spirit, goofball, a character. Are those the best way to describe what kind of person he was?
Absolutely. He had a heart of... He sometimes would come across to me and try to pretend that he was this big, tough and cynical person, but he was a big teddy bear inside. He just didn't want everybody to know that. But yes, that's exactly who he is. He's always trying to make us laugh or smile and make sure you were okay. If he and I, we as siblings would have disagreements, he was always the first one to call me back, and I'm sorry, sis. Always. And we both were pretty stubborn when it came to apologizing to each other, but he'd be the first one to always call me back and apologize, always.
For going through this, it's a year. Does it seem like it's flown by or dragged on?
I think it's actually, some days it feels like it's dragged, some days it feels like, I can't believe it's almost a year. It seems like I just talked to him on the phone. And I don't know how many times where I've had events in my life where I wanted to pick up the phone and call him and I can't. That's horrible. I mean, you go to call him and you can't. I can't explain that feeling.
Tell members, did you hang on to texts, hang on to voicemails? I mean, does that help?
I have texts, I have voicemails, I have videos. Rachel shares videos of me, and his friends have shared stories and things like that. That does help. It does. But just knowing he's not here is really hard. It's really not fair. He was taken from us. That's the thing that I'm having the hardest thing with. He went someplace that was supposed to be safe and was supposed to come home. And he didn't. Not by his choice, because Rachel and Elle were his world. And that's hard to see, especially when I see his daughter and know that he's missing out on all this. I struggle with that, because we had lots of conversations through the years about what he wanted for Elle. And I know that he'd want to be here. Every way he could, he'd want to be here for her. And that's hard for me. And when I see her, it's hard because she's grown so much, and And she's such an amazing little girl. And I just would love for him to see every moment of it.